Hello there. I'm the Hung from the band Titwinkle, and this is Food for Rock, where I pair music to food. On this week's episode, I'm pairing a song that's high energy from a band that doesn't take itself too seriously but does write some killer tracks. That band is the Foo Fighters, and the song is The Pretender, off the Foo's sixth studio album, Echoes, Silence, Patience, and Grace. Now, not only am I a Foo Fighters fan, I also like Dave Grohl, who happens to also be a food guy. He is known to be a barbecue master. It'd be awesome to try one of his ribs one day. On this episode, I was inspired to create this dish by a couple of things. One was a story I read where Dave talked about the band and himself after a show eating Kentucky Fried Chicken and drinking Cristal. What a weird combination, but they swore by it. They said it's one of the best combinations they've ever had, KFC and champagne. So that was one thing that came to my mind. And the second thing was the song's called The Pretender. And I thought, why not create a dish where foods are pretending to be something else? One of these things does not belong here, right? So I present for you chicken fried steak, corn ribs, and butternut mash. You know what? It's time to cook. And let's begin. Meet the band, or the ingredients as some people like to call it. So the star of our show is our chicken fried steak. We're going to use eye of round steak. I have developed a spice mix of 12 herbs and spices, which I will include the ingredients, a link below for you guys to check out what I've put in here. We're also going to do our corn ribs with a husk of corn, and we're going to have some garlic powder, some smoked paprika, some roasted garlic powder, and then we're going to finish off with our butternut mash, which will include some cream cheese and some butter, some salt and pepper, and that will be the ingredients for our poultry pretender dish. So the first thing we're going to do in our meal is we're going to prepare the squash for the mash. This is going to take about 30 to 40 minutes in your oven, depending on how your oven heats up. We're looking at putting it into a roasting pan, cutting this up into cubes, and letting it cook for that 30 to 40 minutes. And what you want to do is you want to check with your fork, make sure it's nice and soft before we take it out of the oven. So I'm going to prep this for you, show you how to prep this butternut squash if you've never done that before. So we'll start off. I just cut off the end, just get that end out of the way, and then I'll cut off the other end. And then I'm going to take a peeler and I'm just going to start peeling. And as you can see, it peels just like any other sort of vegetable, like a potato. So once I have this peeled, I will cube it and put it into a shallow tray. So I've already sliced the butternut squash. The top portion of it is solid, as you can see. And then you get to the bottom part where you can see that there's seeds, just like a pumpkin. And what we're going to do is we're going to scoop this stuff out with a spoon, just like this. You just take a spoon, and then we'll find a bowl. Sorry. We'll put a bowl right over here so everybody can see what I'm doing. And we just scoop it out into a bowl and get as much of those seeds out of here. And then once you've got both sides like this, we can start cutting this up into cubes. So I've diced the butternut squash, as you can see, and I've made it into fairly good size or rough size squares or chunks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 6 cloves of garlic. So I'm going to squash the garlic down. So you just press it down with your knife just so you can get some of those juices and oils coming out of the garlic. And then we're going to add that in. And so here we go. We're going to add those in just like this. And then we're going to add about 4 tablespoons of olive oil. You just want that all in there like this. And then we'll add some pepper, a pinch of pepper. Get that pepper in there, that peppery taste. And then we're going to put in a pinch of salt. Same thing, you want to just get that salt in there, just like that. And then what I'm going to do, since I'm wearing gloves anyways, I'm just going to mix this all up a little bit, just like that. And this is the base for our mash. Now we're going to let this roast in an oven at 400 degrees for 30 to 40 minutes. I would check it at 30 minutes, get a fork, see if it's soft. If it's nice and soft, pull it out. You can let that rest for a little while. We don't have to make it right away. If it's not after 30 minutes, then put it in at least another 10 minutes. And you just want to get that butter toasted flavor in here. And then you want it to be soft because we're going to mash it up. So we're going to prepare the eye of round. A lot of recipes call for cubed steak. Cubed steak is something that maybe you'll find in a grocery store. Up here where I am in the Great White North, we don't really find cubed steak, so I use eye of round, and I'm going to basically cube it myself. Cubing means just tenderizing it, making it tender. We're going to flatten this out, and we're going to tenderize it. The first thing I want to do is I want to trim off some of this fat, and so I'm going to take this fat off the cap, just like this. Now, what I'm not going to do is throw this away. So we got this piece of fat right here. This we're going to use in the pan when we start to deep fry it, just to add some more flavor to the oil. So we're going to keep that fat right there. Now, how am I going to tenderize this? There's a few things we're going to do. Number one, this is a great tool. It's like, I don't know, 18 little knives. And what you do is you press down just like this, and it's getting all those knives to go through the meat. And you want to go in all directions. So, and if you can, I don't know if you can see this, but it's actually making little holes in the meat. So again, pushing down, and it's a meat tenderizer. And so if I push this back, I just want to show you that you see how all these little blades come out. That's what we're doing. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Again, this is just to help break down the tissue because this is a tougher cut of beef. And by making it thin and then breading it and cooking it, we're going to make it a lot more tender. And there we go. This is cut up pretty good. So I don't know if I can show you, but you can see how it's starting to open up just like that. That's what we want. We want it to open up a little bit. And we're going to tenderize this a little bit further. We're going to flatten it out. And I'm going to introduce the God of Thunder with his hammer, Mjolnir. Almighty Thor, please help us get this chicken fried steak nice and flat. Now, one thing about chicken fried steak, some people will call this country fried steak because we're going to use a pan, but we're going to call it chicken fried steak. So 1 second as I prepare this to be hit with the hammer of Thor. So let's get the meat inside our bag. We're going to grab Mjolnir and get ready to flatten out this steak. Here we go. Thank you, Thor. Let's see what we got. Now there we go. There's a thinner piece of meat. And we're going to dredge this next. So now comes the part where we're going to dredge our steak in our wet and our dry mixture. Our wet mixture is just 4 eggs and a cup of cream. I don't put anything else in there. And then my dry mixture, again, 12 herbs and spices, which I will put a list down below for you guys to see what the 12 herbs and spices are in this mix. It's kind of reminiscent of a spice that a Southern gentleman made once. So I'm going to take the steak. I got my gloved hands, and we're just going to wet it. We're going to get it into the wet. And again, I'm wearing gloves, so it doesn't matter. Some people like to have a dry hand and a wet hand. I don't mind. I want to have both hands involved here, so get most of that moisture off. And then we're going to just plop it right in to the dry. Cover it over. Get all those little areas, nooks and crannies all covered. And then we want to shake it off just like that. And then I like to double it up. So we're going to do this again. We're going to wet it. Again, wet it. Both sides. You can see how that's really sticking there. Let the majority of it out and then into the dry. And we're going to bring that over just like this. And there we go. And now we're going to let this rest on a rack. We're going to actually take that rack. I'll bring this over here. We're going to take our chicken fried steak and we're going to put it in the fridge for about a half an hour just to let it set before we start to cook it. So while we're waiting for our meat to set up in the fridge, we're going to prepare the corn ribs. So this is what we're going to do. We want to cut off an end so that it's flat, just like that. I want to cut off the other end so it's flat. And for safety, I like to cut it in the middle. That's what I like to do. And you'll see what I mean by for safety. Because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn it on its side just like this. And we're going to cut this into fours. So we're going to put our knife on the top. And again, just slowly bring it down. And then we'll bring this one in half. Cut this one in half. Do the same thing with this side. Oh, little doesn't want to cooperate with me there. And then cut this one in half. Trust me, I know it's a little bit of work, but these corn ribs are going to be fun. So I'm going to take these pieces here, we're going to put them into a bowl, just like that. And we're gonna add some spice to this mix right now. So I'm gonna take a little bit of smoked paprika. Let's get that in there. A little smoked paprika, just like that. Tiny little bit. A little bit of garlic powder. A little bit of dry roasted pepper and garlic. And then just a small little bit, about a teaspoon of olive oil in there. Not a lot, just to get it all coated because we're going to deep fry these afterwards. And these are going to be our ribs. So they're being prepared right now to get the flavor into them. And then we're going to deep fry them for a few minutes at the end. And this will be our corn rib mixture. So the steak has been in the fridge for about a half an hour. What we're going to do right now is we're going to put some oil in the pan. So we've got just some corn oil in the pan. And it's about an inch in depth, just so that we have enough oil that when we put the steak in there that it's going to sort of shallow fry, not deep fry because it's not going to fill up the whole thing. So I want to turn this on to about 375. So I want to get up to about 375 and get that oil nice and hot. Remember that fat that we saved earlier? I'm just going to take some of this fat, I'm just going to put it in there. I'll start to see it cook. It's going to tell me that it's ready for the steak. And then we'll dump the steak in here. We want to cook it until we see it turn golden brown. That might be 3 or 4 minutes on each side. We'll see. We'll see how long it takes. But this is going to give me a good indicator of when things are starting to fry up. And then we'll put the steak in and we'll watch it turn golden brown. So we can see some bubbles starting to form around our fat. This is what's great about having an induction cooker is it cooks pretty quickly. It gets up to temperature pretty quickly and it'll go down in temperature pretty quickly. Again, you don't need to put the fat in there. I just do because I want to add some extra flavor, and also it lets me see how hot the oil is getting visually. Another way to test too, if you don't know, is you can take a wooden spoon, you put a wooden spoon in it, and you see the bubbles start to form. Like this one here is starting to form some bubbles. Needs to get a little hotter before I put the steak in, but we're getting there. So I'm putting the spoon in again, just to see how the bubbles are working, and it's really bubbling now, and we can see the fat is rendering. So I would say this is up to temp, and I'm going to take my chicken fried steak, And I'm just going to pour it in. I really should have been putting it in away from me, but now we're going to let that sit in there for about 2 or 3 minutes before we turn it over. After a few minutes, you want to just quickly look at the underneath and see if you're getting a golden brown color. That's what we want to see. And once you see that golden brown, you flip it over. So again, don't fight the urge to start moving it. Let it cook for a little while before you start to touch it. You want it to get crispy, and then what we're going to do when we're done is we're going to actually put this on a paper towel to soak up the excess grease. And then I want to make a white sauce, and what we're going to do is we're going to keep 2 tablespoons of this oil that it was cooked in. I took 2 tablespoons of the dry mix as well, so that we can make ourselves a nice white sauce afterwards. It's smelling amazing in here. Who knew? Steak pretending to be chicken. I'm going to take a peek right now and see what we got on the other side. And it's looking a little brown. Look at that golden color right there. That's what I want to see. Now I'm going to let it sit on the opposite side for just as much time. Just let it sit, do its cooking. So our chicken fried steak looks like it is ready. It's nice and crispy on both sides. So we're going to take it out, as you can see. Look at that. And we're going to put it on a paper towel. So our steak is finished. We just want to let this rest while we prepare our mash, our white sauce, and our corn ribs. So we're going to turn this off right now. And I said to you guys, we're going to save just a couple of tablespoons of this oil. 1, 2. You want to save that right there because we're going to make our white sauce out of that. And I'm going to clean up the pan a little bit, and then we're going to make our white sauce. So I've cleared all the oil out of the pan, but I've left all the goodness in there. We're going to turn on the pan again to a medium heat. So we turn it on. Let's get to a medium heat. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of the oil that was originally in there when we were cooking our chicken fried steak. And here is some of the dry ingredients. We're going to add this. We're making a roux, so we're going to add that right in there. And then we're going to mix this up. And I'm going to add about 4 tablespoons of butter. That's what that is. And just get this cooked. And I like to get all the little bits around the corners here in there. Let's get that butter melting in here. We want to get that roux nice and browned before we start to add cream. So I add cream. Sometimes you can add whole milk, but I've got some cream. Just some 15% cream that I'm going to add. I want to make it a little richer. So again, get that butter in there, incorporate it. It's starting to turn brown. This is what I want. Again, grabbing some of that stuff off the side of the pan. I want all that goodness in there. That's looking nice. It's bubbling over. So now I'm going to add some cream a little bit at a time. That's getting thick. I want a little more cream in here. I don't want it that thick. Well, you can see it's still a little thick for me. So just a little more cream. And again, you add little bits of cream, little bits of milk, whatever you want to use, until it gets to a consistency you like. And then what I recommend is once you've got it that consistency, salt and pepper to taste. And I think we're pretty much done here. This is This is the consistency I'm looking for. So you can see this is what I'm looking for. I want it that runny. Yes, this is what I want. And we're turning that off. And we're just going to put this off to the side and let it rest. We're going to make our corn ribs right now. I'm going to deep fry them. So I got the oil at about 350. I'm going to use my spider here, and we're just going to put the corn in nice and gently. And I want to cook this for about 4 minutes. So we're just going to let it sit in there for about 4 minutes. When the 4 minutes are up, I'm going to pull them out and show you what they look like. So I'm pulling out the corn as soon as it starts to curl a little bit like this. So it wasn't 4 minutes at all. It was probably closer to 2 minutes. I recommend if you do this deep frying like I just did, you want to have a splash guard. This is going to splash quite a bit. The other method is, instead of doing it this way, drizzle it with some olive oil and put it in the oven at 400 degrees. And I would cook it for about 20 minutes and then see how it's doing. It's less messy that way. So this is what we're looking at for our corn ribs. You can see they've started to open up a little bit. And so we're going to let them drain on the paper towel right there, right beside our steak. Now it's time to put our butternut mash together. So it's out of the oven. It's nice and roasted. That olive oil, the garlic, and the butternut squash. So we're just going to dump that into a bowl. Just like that. Put this away. I'm going to put about 1/4 cup of cream cheese in there. And I'm going to put about, this is about 3 tablespoons, 4 or 5 tablespoons. I'm going to put lots of butter in there. And now that we have everything in there, we're going to use our hand blender to start blending. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to put the blender in. Get everything mixed up. Well, we've assembled our meal. We got our chicken fried steak, our butternut mash, and our corn ribs. Now, before we take a bite, as it is tradition here, I'm going to introduce my boom. What's with the glasses, pal?
I woke up this morning cool, so I put them on.
Did you wake up this morning with the song ready to go?
Naturally.
Well, let's hear it.
Listen to my voice and only my voice. 3, 2, 1, you're under.
All right, here we go again, folks. What we will do is we'll put a link to the song in the description below so you can actually listen to it and eat your own version of the meal. And have a good night. You okay, pal? Hey. Good night, buddy. Sleep tight.
Visit us at Titwinkle.com for a copy of the recipe.